Invisible. Introduce Grace Bennett, an overworked cleaning woman at the prestigious Lancaster Hotel, who becomes intrigued by the mysterious executive, Lucas Thornfield, staying in the penthouse suite. Despite her attempts to remain invisible as she cleans his room, a chance encounter changes everything when he truly sees her for the first time. Recognition. Lucas finds himself unexpectedly drawn to Grace after their brief interaction. He begins to notice details about her that no one else sees, while she struggles with her growing attraction to a man who seems worlds apart from her reality. A crisis situation brings them closer together. Complications. As Lucas and Grace cautiously build a connection, obstacles arise from both their worlds. His business associates and her family express doubts about their relationship. Grace discovers a troubling truth about Lucas's business that tests her trust in him. Revelations. Lucas must confront his past and the walls he's built around his heart. Grace faces her own insecurities and fears of not being enough. A misunderstanding threatens to separate them permanently until honesty brings them back together. Transformation. Lucas and Grace find a way forward together, challenging societal expectations and embracing a love that transforms them both. They create a new future that honors both their worlds and proves that genuine connection transcends social barriers. Part 1. Invisible, the morning sun had barely touched the gleaming windows of the Lancaster Hotel when Grace Bennett swiped her employee keycard and entered through the service entrance. At 32, with dark circles beneath her warm brown eyes, she moved with the quiet efficiency of someone accustomed to going unnoticed. "Morning, Grace," called Hector from the maintenance desk. "You've got the executive floor again today." Grace nodded, suppressing a sigh as she collected her cart from the supply room. The executive floor meant the pickiest guests, the most meticulous inspections, and occasionally the worst tips. But it also meant an extra $1 per hour, and with her mother's medical bills piling up, every dollar mattered. Mr. Thornfield in the penthouse requested service at exactly 10 a.m., Hector added. Apparently he's very particular about his schedule. "Aren't they all?" Grace murmured, checking her watch. 6:30 a.m. She had 15 rooms to clean before the penthouse, each requiring the Lancaster's signature pristine attention to detail. By 9:55, Grace had worked without a break, her navy uniform damp with perspiration despite the hotel's perfect climate control. Her hands, though protected by latex gloves, felt raw from the cleaning chemicals, and her lower back ached from bending to tuck in the Egyptian cotton sheets with military precision. The penthouse suite occupied the entire top floor of the Lancaster, a luxury accommodation that cost more per night than Grace earned in a month. She knocked softly, following protocol even though the guests were usually out during cleaning hours. "Housekeeping," she called, waiting the required 10 seconds before using her master key. The suite opened into a breathtaking space, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing the city skyline, plush cream carpets, and furniture that Grace recognized from high-end design magazines she occasionally flipped through at the doctor's office. The air smelled of expensive cologne and freshly brewed coffee. She had just begun dusting the entryway table when a deep voice from the adjoining room startled her. "Just leave fresh towels and don't disturb. Anything on my desk." Grace froze. Mr. Thornfield was supposed to be at a business meeting. "Yes, sir. I'll be quick and quiet." She worked methodically, starting with the bathroom, replacing towels, scrubbing marble surfaces, and arranging toiletries with practiced precision. Throughout, she remained acutely aware of the man in the next room, occasionally catching glimpses of him through the partially open door. Lucas Thornfield sat at his desk, his tall frame bent over a laptop. At 40, he had the confident posture of someone accustomed to power. His dark hair, streaked with silver at the temples, was cut in an expensive style that emphasized his strong jawline. Even in casual attire, a light blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing tanned forearms, he exuded authority. Grace had cleaned for countless wealthy executives over her 8 years at the Lancaster. Most never acknowledged her presence beyond a curt nod or occasional complaint. She preferred it that way. Invisibility was safer, simpler. As she vacuumed near the bedroom doorway, an abrupt movement caught her eye. Lucas Thornfield had stood up, stretching his back, his expression revealing momentary weariness before returning to its usual mask of control. For a fleeting second, she glimpsed something familiar in his face, the same bone-deep exhaustion she saw in her own mirror each morning. The vacuum cleaner bumped against a side table, jostling a framed photograph. Grace lunged to catch it before it fell, but succeeded only in knocking it completely off the table. It landed with a dull thud on the carpet, the glass front cracking. "I'm so sorry," Grace gasped, immediately kneeling to assess the damage. The photograph showed a young boy with Lucas's features, standing beside an older man in front of a modest-looking hardware store. It seemed out of place among the penthouse's sleek luxury. Lucas appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable as he looked down at Grace kneeling beside the broken frame. "I'll replace it immediately," she said, carefully picking up the frame, her heart racing. Breaking guest belongings could result in termination, especially with VIP clients. "It's fine," Lucas said, his voice unexpectedly gentle as he took the frame from her hands. Their fingers brushed briefly, sending an inexplicable warmth up Grace's arm. For the first time, he actually looked at her, not through her or past her as most guests did, but directly at her face. His eyes were a startling blue, intense and searching. "It's just glass," he added. "The photo is what matters." Grace stood awkwardly, tucking a strand of chestnut hair back into her practical bun. "Is that your father?" The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. Personal questions were against hotel policy, but something in his momentary vulnerability had made her forget her place. Lucas studied her with newfound curiosity. "Yes, my father's hardware store in Cincinnati." "How did you know?" Grace shrugged slightly. "You have the same eyes. And hands." She glanced at his strong, capable fingers still holding the frame. Worker's hands, despite the expensive watch. A hint of surprise flickered across Lucas's face, followed by something unidentifiable, perhaps appreciation at being truly seen. "You're very observant, Miss Bennett. Grace Bennett." He nodded slowly, as if committing her name to memory. "Well, Miss Bennett, since you've taken an interest in my personal effects, perhaps you'd satisfy my curiosity. How long have you worked here?" 8 years next month." 8 years of cleaning up after people like me," he said, a statement rather than a question. "You must have stories." "Nothing I could share without losing my job, Mr. Thornfield," Grace replied, a small smile touching her lips despite her best efforts to maintain professional distance. For a moment, something like genuine amusement softened his features, transforming him from intimidating executive to approachable human being. The change was so striking that Grace found herself staring longer than was appropriate. His phone rang, breaking the strange connection between them. Lucas glanced at the screen, his expression instantly returning to business-like efficiency. "I need to take this," he said, already turning away. "Just leave everything as it is. I'll request maintenance for the frame." Just like that, Grace was invisible again. She finished her work quickly, hyper-aware of Lucas's deep voice discussing profit margins and acquisition strategies in the next room. As she pushed her cart toward the door, she heard him pause his conversation. "Miss Bennett." She turned, surprised to find him watching her from the doorway of his makeshift office. "Thank you," he said simply. Grace nodded, confused by the unexpected acknowledgement, and continued toward the elevator. What she couldn't know was that as the doors closed behind her, Lucas Thornfield remained standing there, the broken frame in his hands, suddenly aware that for the first time in years, someone had seen past his carefully constructed facade to the hard-working hardware store owner's son beneath. Someone in a maid's uniform with perceptive eyes and worker's hands not so different from his own. And for reasons he couldn't yet understand, the thought of Grace Bennett continued to linger in his mind long after she'd disappeared, like a melody he couldn't quite place but couldn't stop trying to remember. Recognition. For the next week, Grace found herself inexplicably nervous each time she approached the penthouse suite. Lucas was rarely there during her scheduled cleaning, but evidence of his presence lingered everywhere. Open books with passages underlined, handwritten notes on financial reports, a half-empty cup of coffee gone cold. On Thursday, she discovered the broken photograph frame had been replaced with a simple silver one, now displayed prominently on the nightstand instead of hidden away on a side table. The change seemed significant somehow. "You're assigned to the gala tonight," her supervisor announced that afternoon. The Lancaster Ballroom. VIP service. The hotel's charity gala was an annual event attended by the city's elite. Grace normally avoided such assignments, The wealthy attendees often looked through service staff as if they were furniture, but the overtime pay was too good to refuse. Hours later, dressed in a black serving uniform, Grace Sir. Complications. Over the following weeks, Lucas and Grace developed a tentative friendship. He extended his stay at the Lancaster indefinitely, claiming business in the city. They shared early morning conversations while she cleaned his suite, discussing books, dreams, and gradually more personal matters. Grace learned Lucas had built his investment firm from nothing after his father's hardware store went bankrupt. Lucas discovered Grace wrote poetry that captured the beauty in ordinary moments most people overlooked. "You should publish these," he said one morning, reading a poem she'd hesitantly shared. "Who would read the musings of a hotel maid?" she asked without self-pity, simply stating what seemed obvious. "I would," Lucas replied, his voice soft but certain. The hotel staff noticed the change in their relationship. Some were supportive, like Hector, who said, "About time someone saw how special you are." Others were skeptical, like her friend Teresa, who warned, "Men like him don't cross class lines for love." Grace. When Lucas invited Grace to dinner at an upscale restaurant, she accepted despite her reservations. Wearing a simple blue dress saved for special occasions, she felt painfully out of place among the wealthy patrons. "Everyone's staring," she whispered across the table. "Let them," Lucas replied, reaching for her hand. "I've spent my life caring too much what others think." Their evening was interrupted when Lucas's business partner William spotted them. His surprise quickly turned to calculated assessment as he joined their table uninvited. "When you said you were having dinner with someone special, Lucas, I didn't realize you meant hotel staff," William remarked, the pause before hotel staff speaking volumes. Grace watched Lucas's jaw tighten. Grace is more than her job title. William. Later that week, while cleaning Lucas's suite, Grace accidentally knocked over his laptop, revealing documents about a planned hotel acquisition, the Lancaster itself. The plans included staff reductions and converting the property into luxury condominiums. Hundreds would lose their jobs, her friends, her makeshift family. When Lucas returned to find her staring at the screen, the betrayal in her eyes was unmistakable. "You're buying the Lancaster to tear it apart," she said, voice barely steady. "It's business, Grace. The hotel is failing financially and it's people's livelihoods." "My livelihood." Her voice rose. "Was this what our relationship was? Research on your investment?" Lucas reached for her, but she stepped back. "It wasn't like that. Meeting you changed everything." "Changed what?" "These plans are dated yesterday." Unable to face him, Grace fled the suite, her world collapsing around her. Revelations for days, Grace avoided the penthouse, switching shifts with colleagues. Lucas left messages she wouldn't answer, sent flowers she returned. Her mother noticed her sadness but didn't pry, simply holding her hand during their quiet evenings together. A week later, Grace was called to the hotel manager's office, expecting to be reprimanded for avoiding her duties. Instead, she found Lucas waiting. "Please hear me out," he said, his composure cracking. 5 minutes. Reluctantly, she agreed, following him to a quiet corner of the hotel garden. "I withdrew from the Lancaster acquisition," he began. "Not because of us, though you helped me see what I'd become. I started my company to help struggling businesses like my father's, not destroy them for profit." He handed her a folder containing a new business proposal, a partnership with the Lancaster's owners to revitalize the hotel while preserving its staff and character. "I lost sight of my purpose somewhere along the way," Lucas continued, "until a hotel maid saw through my expensive suits to the hardware store owner's son underneath." Grace studied the proposal, hope warring with lingering hurt. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I love you," he said simply, "and love demands truth." The raw honesty in his voice reached her when nothing else could. "I'm scared," Grace admitted. "Not just of being hurt, but of your world. I don't belong there." "Neither do I, really," Lucas confessed. "I've been playing a part for so long I forgot who I was. You reminded me." He reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. "I don't care about the differences in our backgrounds," he continued. "I care about the woman who sees beauty in overlooked moments, who carries everyone's burdens but her own, who reminds me what matters." Grace's defenses crumbled as she realized the truth. Their worlds might be different, but their hearts spoke the same language. Transformation. 6 months later, The Lancaster Hotel hosted a different kind of gala, a celebration of its successful revitalization under new partnership. Grace, no longer in a serving uniform but a midnight blue gown, stood beside Lucas as they greeted guests. "Hard to believe," murmured Hector, now head of operations thanks to Lucas's reorganization plan. "From cleaning rooms to running the place." Grace smiled, watching Lucas across the room. The hotel's transformation mirrored their own. Lucas had rediscovered his purpose, using his wealth to create opportunity rather than exploit it. Grace had completed her nursing degree while implementing a pioneering program, offering hotel staff educational scholarships and flexible schedules for caregivers. Her mother, seated in a place of honor at the main table, looked healthier than she had in years thanks to specialized treatment Lucas had helped arrange. "Penny, for your thoughts," Lucas said, returning to her side. "I was thinking about invisibility," Grace replied. "How we see only what we expect to see until something forces us to look deeper." "I'm grateful every day that I finally saw you," Lucas said, his voice tender. "The real you." Later that evening, in the penthouse that had witnessed the beginning of their unlikely journey, Lucas knelt before her, offering not an extravagant diamond but his grandmother's simple emerald ring. "You once said you were just doing what needed to be done," he reminded her. "Loving you is what I need to do for the rest of my life. Will you marry me, Grace Bennett?" Through tears, Grace nodded. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." As Lucas slipped the ring onto her finger, Grace marveled at life's strange, beautiful journey. She had gone from invisible to essential, not because she had changed, but because one man had truly seen her, and in seeing her he had found himself. Their love story would never be conventional, would always raise eyebrows in certain circles, but it was theirs, built on recognition of each other's true selves, strengthened through challenges, and transformative in ways neither could have imagined when a hotel maid and a businessman's paths first crossed in a penthouse suite. Sometimes, Grace thought as Lucas pulled her close, the most extraordinary love stories begin in the most ordinary circumstances, with a broken picture frame, a moment of genuine seeing, and the courage to cross the invisible lines that separate us from our truest happiness.